As the Riddler says, the day of reckoning is finally upon us. After all the anticipation, content, and time spent waiting for the Batman to release, I have finally seen the film, and I have to say, it's one of my favourite comic book films in years. I didn't think this statement would hold true when I did a video a few months ago talking about how it has all the potential of being one of the best, but the film completely blew my expectations away. I was thrilled by the story, moved by Robert Pattinson's performance, who completely shuts down the naysayers here, and further stunned by the cinematography, score, and integral direction by director Matt Reeves. I'm not going to waste any time and get straight into my spoiler-free review, but before I get into the reasons why I loved the film so much, if you want to see all my videos on the Batman over the next few weeks, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my spoiler-free review for The Batman. So Batman is about to have huge big screen adaptations this year, whether that be with Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton donning the cows in The Flash, or the HBO Max Batgirl film that is also due for release. But one thing that has built my excitement for Matt Reeves The Batman over the last few years is of course him bringing his vision to it, but that it has the potential to really leave its mark outside of a cinematic universe, similar to how Christopher Nolan built a legacy with the Dark Knight trilogy. And boy, Matt Reeves has the opportunity to really build a whole trilogy of stunning, emotionally driven character films if we use this one as an example. The Batman is a fantastic detective noir, showcasing the best we've seen Gotham on the big screen, and possibly one of the best takes on the Caped Crusader himself. In fact, Reeves' detective approach is more about evolving the character and world rather than taking it to new heights. And while this may sound like a bad thing, it's actually the complete opposite. Comparisons with Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy were always going to be made, and this new Batman film does remind you of the extensive realism and neo-noirish tone in certain moments. Not to mention the fantastic set pieces that feel like a motif to that. But the difference in Matt Reeves' film all stems through the backbone that he has crafted surrounding the story and central characters' positioning. There is no murder of the Wayne scene and no beat-by-beat retelling of his path to becoming Batman. Rather, this is a post-origin starting point. A Batman still in his early years and one dealing with youthful trauma and what his vigilante identity actually means. The Batman essentially stands on its own, bringing something we haven't seen in a Batman movie before. And not to mention its heavy Zodiac, Seven, Chinatown, and even Saw vibes. It's gripping and superbly filmed, giving us a noir take on a character that is continuously redefined, and yet manages to bring us one of the best versions of Gotham City that I personally have ever seen on the big screen. They've combined American and Gothic cities to form a connection for the old and modern viewer, and that passion is stylistically true across many aspects of the film. Reeves' Gotham is grimdark, rainy, full of grime and destroyed opportunities. It's a Gothic setting where criminals are evolving, and it's a perfect backdrop to the genre, one that is a horror noir crime thriller. It's a complex world with deeply flawed characters, and it really shines with Reeves fully embracing the detective aspect that made the comics so iconic. Yes, other takes have had elements of that too, but this was the first to go fully into that angle in almost a Fincher-esque way. This is a Batman film made as a serial killer one, and it's not just the antagonist who is questioned, because Batman is too. It has you questioning all sorts of morals and the type of world we live in, one reflected in the film and one that eerily could take place today. Really, my only flaw with the film is that the final act does move more into the traditional superhero movie climax, but at the same time, it also feels completely earned because the rest of the film builds up to the theme of critiquing the idea of a superhero. Yes, maybe 15 minutes cut off the final act could have really polished this up, but I'm not complaining because for the most part, a lot of the runtime felt completely earned, and after watching it, I didn't think it was 3 hours long. The film was perfectly paced, and for me personally, runtime is not a problem if the film is truly great. But coming to Robert Pattinson's performance as Batman, I must say it's one of the best takes on the character we've ever seen when it comes to his theatrical history. In this film, he is playing a much more vulnerable and human version than we have ever seen before, and the whole playboy aspect is less present than some of the other versions. His performance is very subtle, but includes a lot of nuance, and he really does a great job of portraying a saddened man who has a lot of unresolved trauma to deal with. Everything connects to that, and even when he's wearing the cowl, you see all the little emotions. We get a lot more of Batman than we do Bruce Wayne, but that really speaks to someone who has become lost within his identity. He almost feels alien when we see him around other characters, and the only time it feels like he is really alive is when he's confronting criminals or beating them to a pulp. Batman also seems terrifying, almost like a horror figure in some scenes, further extended by the look of his costume and Batmobile, and I also really love a lot of the narration Bruce gives throughout the film too. Moving on, Paul Dano is further a prime standout and one of my favourite performances by a villain in a comic book movie. He's not quite Heath Ledger level of good, but damn, he comes close, and his performance is utterly chilling as an unhinged serial killer who always brings the weight of threat. Edward Nashton, aka the Riddler, is unearthing the conspiracy among Gotham's most powerful, one that traces back to the Waynes and ultimately falls into the lap of Bruce, who is left to get to the bottom of it before the whole city is affected. It does go much deeper, and the reveals in the first 2 acts are ones that really hit hard, especially in their connection to Bruce, and the Riddler is a really effective character when it comes to making the audience care about the situation. He draws Batman in, leaving ciphers and other puzzles at each of his crimes, and it's definitely something the Zodiac Killer would have done, giving us a very gritty and realistic take we are not used to seeing with this character. The events that occur based on the Riddler's doing are truly scary ones, and Paul Dano's performance really helps elevate that and a sense of tension. If you've seen him in the film Prisoners, you'll know what he's capable of as an actor, and here he gives another career best performance as the iconic villain. Then there's Zoë Kravitz Selina Kyle, another character in this film who has a twisted sense of justice, but the actress completely brings it, playing by her own rules and moral code. Her chemistry with Pattinson's Caped Crusader is electrifying, making Bruce and the audience wonder if she's connected to this whole mystery. Like Dano, her performance is a standout, and she's really connected to everything going on in a big way. And when we get her and Pattinson's character on screen, the film also leans into a sexual dynamic more than previous ones, and it only stimulates the flirtatious chemistry between them. And with Catwoman having a lot of connections in the film, I have to mention some of the other performances that come to mind, like with John Turturro's Carmine Falcone, who brings a visible menace to the role, one that is much bigger than you think. And then there's even that of an unrecognisable Colin Farrell, who brings a certain levity and charm on screen while playing Oz. While he's not in the movie too much, one of my favourite scenes in the film is that of the car chase scene they've been promoting in the trailers, and it could be one of my favourite action scenes in a comic book movie in years. It's hellish, pounding, and Michael Giacchino's score really is a standout here. The footage you've seen doesn't do it justice, and it will definitely be up there with the truck flip scene in The Dark Knight. Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon is also quite solid, and we get a lot of him and Pattinson trying to solve the crimes. And then there's Alfred, played by Reeves' familiar Andy Serkis, who is quite emotional and great on screen too. My only issue with Alfred is that we didn't get more of him, as he's barely in the film, and it would have been nice to see him more towards the end, as they could have really connected him to what was happening. Furthermore, there's some of the production elements which stood out, and these are ones that I couldn't be more happy about. One thing that makes Batman so timeless and perfect as a superhero character adapted to the big screen is that he doesn't have any superpowers. He's not a god, and he doesn't have any fantastical abilities. The man behind the cowl bruises just like anybody else, and the shot of Pattinson's scarred back really reminds us of this. There's always something practical in frame here guiding the added visual effects, or even when there's none at all. It makes you believe more in the characters and events unfolding on screen, and of course it appropriately fits for Batman. And when looking at the other production components, this is definitely one of the strongest Batman films when it comes to the score, cinematography, and even editing. Everything has an emotional complexity, or is cut to give you the main force that you need to know, and I love that. When a superhero movie can make you think about the filmmaking too, or the sound that guides it, that's a good sign that the director has put the effort in to capture something truly timeless. And that has been pulled off in the differing departments here. Rather than leaning on a theme, Michael Giacchino's score surprises, ranging from tense drums to Nirvana, giving us a really eerie soundtrack. It magnifies the power of the scenes, the tension, and character mindsets. And like I mentioned before, his score during the Batmobile chase is quite the memorable one. And then of course, Fraser once again knocks it out the park with probably the most beautifully shot Batman film, putting him right up there among the greatest cinematographers, particularly after his recent work on Rogue One, Dune, and now The Batman. The natural lighting and colour palette only elevates what you are seeing, building on the tone and mood that the filmmaker and his crew strive to bring us. And speaking of Matt Reeves as a filmmaker, this is where everything stemmed from and created the opportunity to bring us something profoundly unique. The direction of Matt Reeves and his vision for this new take on the iconic character works because we are given a Batman who is so close to the brink of allowing the darkness to consume him. In being a vigilante, he is exposed to the worst of humanity, which threatens to diminish Bruce Wayne from Batman. How Matt Reeves has chosen this narrative, one that forces Bruce to confront this very ideal, is the emotional weight that is needed for when we eventually reach the end. And the director also shoots The Dark Knight's pursuit of his criminals with the same psychotic and point-of-view driven focus that he films the Riddlers. It's unique in that way, becoming a superhero movie that critiques the idea of what a superhero is, and that a lot of the time is common with most of the best comic book movies of all time. The idea of what makes heroism, a particular debate that has an answer in the final act, and one that doesn't just equal to beating down bad guys to a pulp. Now, like I said before, the plot does leave you feeling that runtime a bit towards the end, and it's something that for me puts this film slightly under that of, say, The Dark Knight. But this still doesn't hurt it. The film is never boring, and the narrative is propelled by the series of events that unfold in Gotham's underbelly. Reeves sustains the tension throughout, and a majority of the elements here are engrossing. In fact, the director who made Let Me In and the two Planet of the Apes films, ones that I personally love, has, in my opinion, created a comic book masterpiece in The Batman, one of the best films I've seen in the genre in many years, and one that can also situate outside of it very well. He's built another apocalyptic environment that he can break down and explore over multiple movies, and it perfectly critiques the morals of traditional hero storylines. He has given us a Batman that is right for this cinematic time. But that was my spoiler-free review for The Batman. What really blew me away was how Reeves could redefine the characters in this world yet again after all the iconic films that came before. Seeing Batman through this detective noir lens is almost a love letter to Batman fans, yet it further finds a way to separate itself from being too comic booky and become its own thing entirely. In a landscape full of similar looking comic book and blockbuster films, this really is a pleasure to see unfold, and honestly, I just can't wait to see where things go from here. I think that based on the ending of this film, it could be a wild second entry, and after continuous hits from the filmmaker, I have full faith in him to deliver come the rest of his potential trilogy. Pattinson's character can also grow and become even more so, one of the best iterations we've seen on screen. There's so much that can expand from this film, yet it becomes its own story and one that is worth seeing multiple times and way into the future. Vengeance has certainly arrived. I'm giving The Batman a rating of 9 out of 10. But to those who have already seen the film, what do you think of Matt Reeves The Batman, and do you agree that it's one of the best comic book films of all time? I think it's a perfect ode to the character, who only has room to grow, yet it's a film that displays its muscular and intense filmmaking on the highest level. But again, it's all subjective, and I appreciate the range of reactions and reviews, so let me know down below in the comment section what you personally thought towards the film, alongside things that stood out with your first impressions. For lots more videos surrounding The Batman during its release, including my breakdown and spoiler-filled video essay, which are coming in the next few days, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.